Hello, fellow 4-H staff. This is Ariel Clay, the San Joaquin 4-H program representative. Today I'm bringing you a quick video on how to make buttons, like we have right here, to make your website look a little nicer. We'll be using Publisher in this video, but I just want to mention you can use similar techniques to make buttons in Word or Adobe. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking on the Photoshop. That's the program. Wow, you can tell that these videos are very professionally done. Anyways, moving on. You can see on the San Joaquin County website. Here's an example of the buttons that I'm talking about. This used to just be a page of links, so it was just very visually boring and a little difficult for people to really find what they wanted. But now, let's say they wanted information about our leader awards. There's a pretty little button right here, and if they click it, it takes them to the webpage about those particular awards and how to make a nomination and all of that. So it's just nicer looking. So to make a button like this, I just used Publisher, so we'll open that up. And you can just draw a shape. Let's go with a square. Just put a square there. And for the background color, you can change this very easily. And I recommend using, or well, you really should be using the branding toolkit. You can find it here on the State 4-H website under resources and right here. And if you just scroll down, Suzanne has a nice summary right here of the color palette. So 4-H green, you would use a specific RGB code, but there are lots of other colors you can use. All of these are kind of used throughout UCA and R, so it gets that polished, consistent branding look that they're really going for at the state level. So you can use any of these, and the way you go about getting them entered into the button is you can just right click, and then the little bucket is shape fill, and you would just say more fill colors. So let's say we wanted to do a nice gold button, A&R gold. There's the RGB value. So going back to this page, it's right here, RGB. So you can see it's R253, G185, and B19. So you just go into here and you change it accordingly. So 253, 185, and 19. And this ensures that it's the exact right color. You're not guesstimating or having to worry that maybe your monitor settings are a little off or anything like that. It will always be the right color. You can choose to have a line on the outside, or if you want to go stylistically where there is no visible border, you can either go with white, or you can go ahead and change it to the same color. So it's nice. It saves you a recent color right there. And now there's no line at all. This seems to be a little bit of a more modern feel, so it just depends on your preferences. Then for the text, you just draw a text box. And let's say we want to have this be a button to the State 4-H website. Okay, so you type in your text, and then you're definitely going to want it bigger and all of that. But another branding thing to keep in mind is using consistent fonts. So if you go back to the branding toolkit, there are 4 fonts that they recommend. Kronos and Minion don't always come on all computers, but Verdana and New Times New Roman always are. So let's change it to, I think I have Kronos on here. Yep, Kronos Pro. And then make it bigger. Make it fill. A little too big. Okay, and if you center it, Publisher is nice in that you can make sure that everything is centered. So if we select the yellow box, you can see that pink line indicates that it's centered in there. And then if you want to make sure that your text is also centered, it'll let you know that as well. Pardon me. All right. You can leave the text black if you want to change the color. If you have a dark background, white is always a nice choice. Like most things, you just want to make sure that whatever you choose to use is consistent across the website. Something else that I do on some of my buttons is add a picture. So if we go into my picture file, I have a bunch of logos right here. Let's just put a nice green clover in there. Okay. And you can play around with it until it looks how you want it to. I'm not going to fiddle with it too long. This is just an example after all. But I do need to get that website. There we go. Okay, so let's say that's how you wanted it to look. Now to turn it into something that you can embed in your website, I just go to Save As. We'll save it to my desktop and name it something. And then you have kind of two options to go with for what format you want to save it as. JPEGs are regular picture files, basically, or PNGs, which are very similar, but PNG is a little easier to work with, especially if you're shrinking or stretching an image. It retains its, it doesn't distort. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay, so we save it as a PNG. And so this is my template. I'll just save that for now. Okay, so I can close that, I minimize this, and welcome to my slightly messy desktop. So this is the PNG file I saved. If I open it back up, it gives you options for editing. You choose Edit and use the crop and rotate. And here you just crop it until it's how you want it. So since we're squared and we don't have any outside lines, it's actually very easy to eliminate all the white space. Okay, and there probably are some easier ways to do this, but this is what works for me. And then you just click Done and save it as a copy. We'll call this Final. Okay, and now here you have your PNG image of your button saved to my desktop. And to put it onto your actual website, I'm just going to go to my home page so it'll be easy. We'll put the button in this asset right here under the Central Use Summit. It's not related, but we're just using it as an example. So if we go to Edit Site Pages, this is my homepage, so I click on Content. And this is the asset that corresponds with this blue box right here. Okay, and first thing we need to do is upload the file. So you can upload it to here, or you can upload it to the file library and work from the file library. So I'm pulling up Save Website Button Final, and it just takes a minute to pull it up. PNGs will always show up as this blue box with the file. JPEGs, one nice thing about them is that you do kind of get that little tile picture so you can see easily. But let's see. When we actually go in and edit, it'll give us the file name. So I usually leave that the same, but the description will be whatever you want it to say when you hover over it. So like this, the description, if you went into that file, is 2018 Central Youth Summit logo. So for here, you want to make it clear that it's a link. So link to State 4-H website. And you might think, well, the button is literally says State 4-H website. People should understand. It doesn't hurt to have an accurate description here. And also people who use reader apps or programs that help them if they're visually impaired, the reader app will actually read the description for them. So it is really important to make sure that you're describing them correctly. File display size, you can choose how wide it will be, and it'll shrink it accordingly. Where I'm putting it, we'll probably want about 250 pixels wide. You can do alignment in the center, alignment left, alignment right. I'm going to do alignment center so that it just goes right down the middle of the asset we're putting it in. If you're doing a page of links like we have here, what's recommended is that you actually use align everything on the left. And the reason we say that you should do that is if someone is looking at it on a mobile app or on a mobile phone or something like that, the buttons will shift to the screen size. So like right now on the screen size, it makes sense for it to be 2 rows of 4 or 2 columns of 4. But if it was on a mobile phone screen, which is smaller, it would probably change to be 1 column with all of these, just one after another. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then finally, since we want this to link to the State 4-H website, I'll go to the home page. Whoop. Yes, there we go. Okay, so you would just copy the link and then go back here and put it in that link and update the file. Okay, so this should be ready to go and embed now. So we'll just put it right under the other file and insert file, and it automatically puts it there. There was an extraneous space right there. And then if you update the asset, it should show up now if we go to my home page. Yep, see, there's the button we made. We hover over it and it says that it's a link to the State 4-H website, and it does indeed take us there. So that's how you make a button using Publisher. It's very easy, very user-friendly. You can also use other programs, as I mentioned, like for something a little more, something you can do more with. Photoshop works really well. So these are all using a template that Suzanne actually provided so that it matches what you would find at the state website. So, for example, if you go to the state website, you can see these look a lot like what I have on my page. So once again, it's just nice to have that consistent branding across platforms. But use whatever you're comfortable with. Photoshop does cost money. It costs about $100 a year for a basic subscription. So it's great to just start with something. So these publisher buttons make a nice, refreshing change to a page. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and enjoy the rest of your day.